listening. Well, what is it? It's everything. Our entire existence on this planet evolves out of listening, which is really a function of being, but I'll get to that in a second. But I want to just talk about this in terms of technique and acting, because Kenny Leon won the Best Director for the he directed the Tony Award-winning play for Best Revival of a Play for A Raisin in the Sun, and when he won the Tony Award last week, or 2 weeks ago, in his acceptance speech, you know what he said? Blows my mind. And this was the first thing he said. He said, do you know why our cast is so great? He said, because they listen to each other. Because they listen to each other. And he said it twice. And then he went on to thank other people. That was his acceptance speech. And it immediately, to me, it's amazing because the things that I'm going to talk about today seem to be so zeitgeisty in a way, and yet they... Listen, listening has been the bedrock of, I think, all great acting since the beginning. But it's not a function germane only to acting. It's actually part of your DNA. So everybody can do it. It's been around since this universe was banged into existence and people were able to communicate in a way through language and being. So I think it's so fascinating, though, that in terms of acting, why is that, when people talk about it, why does it have to be the exception? Because when you see it, it is exceptional. But it also begs the question, well, why is it that we're not seeing it all the time? And I mentioned in the book, in the first book, I think there's a chapter on, I remember reading a New York Times review of a play, an off-Broadway play, or maybe it was a Broadway play, and the reviewer said that the actors were so listening to each other, it felt as if everything was spontaneous and unrehearsed, as if they were making it up on the spot. And again, I thought, well, this is so sad. Why is that the exception? Why is it that we go to the theater and we're lulled into complacency or something that is less than this tangible, visceral, very alive, dynamic availability for all of us? And then I thought, well, listen, you guys, the whole thing about acting technique is, and especially when it's derived from listening, it's simple, but it's not easy. It's simple, but it's not simplistic. Now that already is a new understanding, because there's nothing really easy about listening. Robert Duvall talks about all acting is listening and talking. And then when he was interviewed on NPR, the interviewer said, really, that's it? And he said, yeah, you think that's easy? Try it. Right? That's amazing that he said that. And why is it hard? Because listening is the way in, and we don't want to go in. Because going in is going to make you feel things that you don't want to feel in life and in our work. In life, we have so many ways and distractions to disconnect so that we don't have to go in and feel. That's part of, I think, our cultural malady, and we're trying to self-correct. But I think in acting, what's interesting to me is, so this idea about listening is not just this part. Listening is about giving, it's about receiving, it's reciprocity, it's surrender, it's letting go. Simultaneously, it's empowering and exciting and dynamic. And then also, if you think about it beyond just this, because it's a function of being, all of who you are in totality comes from listening, meaning your physicalness, your intuition, your instinct, behavior, which is an acting term that I don't ever use because you just do what you want to do in the moment. That then becomes behavioral. Spontaneity, reaction. So it's all connected. But it has to be listening and being first and then doing. Because that's the truth about life. You're listening and receiving before you do. Now, you don't think that because we're kind of on our own hamster wheel of doing. You set the alarm clock and you have to be at somewhere at a certain time, and you set your coffee for the automatic drip. You can tell I don't have one, so I don't even know what that is. But you see, everything is sort of regimented out in a way that feels like you're constantly doing. But if any of you have ever had any moments of repose, which you all have, and I highly suggest having more of them, you actually are just in a state of the ground of your being, which is receptivity, just being, breathing, existence itself. So that's where we got to start. And you guys, it's ephemeral, but it's not. It's sometimes illusory, but it's also tangible. And then it leads me to this other thing that, Shailene, I think Shailene's success is amazing because she's an emissary of the work, and I think but she was talking to Max today at the gym, like, I mean, everybody here at the studio is doing it because it's all based on listening in a very active way. But I think this is very exciting when she has a movie out, The Fault in Her Stars, and 2 of the reviews that I read are talking about her acting, again, in this way that comes full circle. This idea that we can be in a way that suggests not acting at all. The LA Times says that she wins by seeming to be herself. And one of the biggest teachings that I always give is the hardest thing to reveal character comes out of by being who you are. That takes guts. That is so hard. How would you like to reveal who you are with this gigantic camera right in front of you? That is not easy. But when you see it, it's magic. And it's all possible because it's a human trait. You all have it. Everybody can act. It's not just given to the gods on a certain day, or the gods didn't give it to some people and you just missed school that day. When he handed out talent for acting, you missed, so you're missing some gene. No, it's just called being human. And then the Chicago Sun-Times said, every line of dialogue she says in this film sounds as if we're eavesdropping on a real life. There's no evidence of capital letters acting. So when I read things like that take pause to talk about acting, and what is this thing that we're trying to do, it makes me very, very excited. Because it's what we're doing and trying to figure out and exercising toward and fumbling and stumbling and having victories toward and having it all fall apart and then realizing it's just a calling to self. And the more we can do that and be brave with where listening takes each of you is really what the calling of life is. So I want you to think about that this week, is that if you really listen to yourself beyond distraction, what is the listening part trying to tell you? It may tell you things you don't want to hear. It may tell you things you've been telling yourself for 4 years that you've never actually acted on. It may keep giving you, the universe is non-judgmental in its presentation of information that can help assist you in living the life that you're desiring. It's about aligning with the desire that you have. But human beings have a really weird, uncanny way of getting in the way of really getting the information. Meaning, we're all receptors. You're all clued into it all the time, except for this part that distracts you and tells you that you're not, or tells you other things to keep you from really getting the message. That's deep.